Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. I almost forgot what I was going to say there. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Rude College 9343, and it says, am I the arsehole for having second thoughts about marrying my fiance? After a drunk comment. Not sure why I'm even here. Guess I'm still trying to process what my 27 male fiance drunkenly admitted to me, 30 female, last night. For context, my fiance, who I'll refer to as Alex, and I have been together for just under 2 years and got engaged in December. Everything has been a blast since the day we met, and we kept surprising each other with just how awesome of a couple we can be. Last night, we had a special date night for New Year's planned, where we dressed up like bowlers from the 1970s and bowled our asses off for a few frames until we finally decided on a winner. During the 5 games, we ended up drinking 2 of those beer towers, albeit 7 beers each altogether. He's not a big drinker, so he was a little more tipsy when we decided to call it a night and head home. We live really close by, so we walked to and from the bowling alley since we're going to be drinking. On that 15-minute walk home, he was doing the usual mushy, I love you, and other cute little things he tells me while giggling. Things took a bit of a turn when he started talking about how much he enjoys our sex. He always told me that we have amazing sex and that he can't get enough. But in his drunken state, he told me something different. You're the 3rd best I've ever had. I stopped walking for a second and just stared at him in disbelief. Alex just looks at me, giggles again, and kisses me. Thinking he was just saying that on purpose to agitate me a bit like he does, but not really mean it. I laugh it off and we keep walking. Once we get home and sit on our front porch, he brings it back up. I really do mean it though, babe. You're amazing, but I've had better before you. I was as confused as I was mad, embarrassed, and offended all at the same time. I asked him what the hell he was saying to me and if he was being serious. He started crying and told me that he had a one-night stand before he met me with some woman that was like a sex goddess. He also mentioned a past fling with a guy when they were both teenagers and experimenting with drugs. Both of these confessions took me completely off guard because he never in our time together mentioned anything about being bi-curious or anything like that, let alone promiscuous sex. My commitment to Alex is starting to change now though, and I haven't been able to look at him all day and have avoided him. I'm having second thoughts about following through with a marriage if he'll always think of me as a 3rd place prize. Even if I did think there was something about Alex that wasn't as good as a past relationship, I wouldn't openly tell him that I thought he wasn't as hot, handsome, has a small dick, etc. That just seems kind of mean and feels a little malicious or petty. Am I the arsehole for reconsidering the engagement? The top commenters say on this one, first one says not the arsehole, saying it once was a slip, twice was deliberate. Next commenter says you're not the arsehole for having second thoughts. What he said was hurtful and unnecessary. Even if he was drunk, it's okay to take time to process this and decide if you can move past it together. Another commenter says sounds more like he wanted to unleash the truth but didn't want the repercussions of doing it while sober. Now he can say he was just drunk. Another commenter says not the arsehole. I mean, he clearly thought a lot about this to make this list. Go into it even more detail about the women and to knowingly hurt your partner. To what end exactly? Like that screams I don't like you anymore, doesn't it? Laughing like a sociopath while doubling down. Who would want to marry this person? So, sometime later, OP came in with her update and says so Alex tried to apologize. The morning after we went out, he pretended everything was okay and was as sweet with me as usual. But I was short with him and ignored his texts all day leaving for work. When we both got home in the evening, I still couldn't even look at him, and so he asked me what was wrong, and I told him. Apparently, he hardly remembers a thing after we finished bowling. He recalls walking home and saying some things he felt embarrassed about, and then sitting outside and cuddling with me on the porch. I told him exactly what I remember him saying, and he looked mortified. He apologized profusely and told me I'm the only person he slept with and ever cared this much about. But I told him he'd humiliated me and made me feel like I was the problem. and needed some time apart. So he volunteered to stay with his brother to give me some space. He's since spent the rest of the evening and today trying to make it right, leaving voicemails and texting that he really didn't mean to hurt me and that he was drunk and stupid. He kept reiterating that I'm the best thing that's happened to him and the sex I had before was meaningless and that you're my number one as far as anyone I've slept with that matters. It just made me madder. Like he's now lying to save face and trying to manipulate me into feeling like I'm overreacting after making me feel like a lesser partner in bed. I finally told him to stop and told him I didn't believe a word he said anymore and that even if he's being sincere, nothing he says will undo the fact that deep down he'll always think of me as a consolation prize to some sex goddess and his male buddy. I'm honestly also second guessing if he even likes women, and I'm not ready to deal with being with someone who's questioning their sexuality. He started crying again and said he just wanted to open up to me since we've never had the conversation about previous partners, and in his drunk state he thought we're at that point where we could have honest conversations, but regrets the timing and letting it slip while drunk. He said he'd move out and leave me alone, but hopes I won't share what he told me with family and mutual friends, which I agreed to. I don't feel bad about ending things. He clearly didn't think before speaking, and now he's just trying to patch it up and minimize it as mistakes and attempt to an honest conversation. But I know he's just trying to lower my self-esteem and make me feel like I need to turn into a sex goddess in bed or be more like a man. I've realized my self-worth and I'm no one's bronze medal. I appreciate all the comments and kind words on the last post helping me realize this. A commenter says to the OP, I cannot believe this guy tried to twist this into being honest and opening up to her. This reads like these weird posts where men say that you should never open up to women because she'll pull away if she thinks you're vulnerable. Also interesting that initially he had no recollection of what he'd said and then changed to his wanting to be open and honest. Another commenter says to OP, wait until OP comes back with an update saying that he's spreading terrible lies about her when explaining to people why they broke up. OP says, I was worried about this, but fortunately so far it sounds like he's just told mutual friends that he made a huge mistake while drunk. One of them reached out to me and thinks he cheated and told me I deserve better. So I'm not going to deny it and leave it at that at this point. That commenter replied saying, look, there are a few things going on here. One, Alex drunkenly said something on purpose to agitate me a bit like he does. He has a track record of riling you up. I'm assuming both drunk and sober. Not great. 2, he chose to use his real, true, honest opinion of your prowess to do so. Not great. 3, he revealed he's bisexual. We're well past bi-curious. If he's ranked this guy at number 2 all that time, you don't have to worry about dealing with him questioning his sexuality. He put a woman at number 1 and a guy at number 2. To end of story. Bisexual. He's obviously been avoiding telling you for a long time, and he only did it while he was plastered, so it's pretty like he's been afraid to tell you. And if you have a problem with dating and marrying a bisexual person, well, there's a word for that, and he was right to be afraid. Assuming your SO is instantly going to cheat and turn out to be gay, / dump you for a person for another gender on the big reveal is prime biphobia, and very common experience for bi people, especially men, so there's every chance you're not the first. So in short, you've got a couple of issues on 1 and 2. A guy who likes to rile you up for fun and was willing to put you down to do so. But on 3, you're kind of the arsehole. And remember, there's every chance he used this whole your third best routine as a very roundabout, stupid, awkward way of bringing up his sexuality. And you could probably find out if you straight up asked him why he never told you sooner. If you're willing to lose an awesome relationship because you're not willing to be with someone bisexual, that's your loss. Opie said he told me he's never been attracted to men, and that one experience as a teenager was his only time being sexual with a man. And he thinks the reason it came out while drinking is that he rarely gets drunk or does drugs these days, and his state that night made him remembered how it was a surprisingly good experience and made him want to experiment with prostate stimulation more. I didn't know if I believe him, but even if it's true, it kinda gave me the ick to think about him liking that type of stuff. Someone says, did OP give a ring back to the ex and move on? OP says, he told me to keep the ring and hope we could at least stay amicable long term. And there were many comments after this one, especially about OP's comments during this. Some people even after saying that he dodged a bullet. They both dodged bullets. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account and is titled, "Am I the Arsehole for declining to celebrate Christmas with my boyfriend's family and not inviting him to my family's celebration?" And before we do get into the story, there are some trigger warnings on it of manipulation, racism, controlling behavior, and misogyny as well. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. It starts. For context, I, 19 female, am from the United States and currently a second-year university student in the UK. My boyfriend, 23 male, is British, recently finished his master's and is now working. We've been dating for 10 months and he's my first boyfriend. He's been nothing but understanding, kind, and supportive throughout our relationship, and I've met his parents and siblings twice, and both times were wonderful. His mum even told him she thinks I'm the one. In late November, he asked if I'd like to spend Christmas with his family. He said everyone would love to have me there, and I thought it was sweet, but I declined. I've been feeling homesick and wanted to spend Christmas, a holiday that means a lot to me, with my family in South Dakota. When I told him, he seemed aloof for a few days. I went to his flat later to reassure him that I'd love to visit his family another time, but for me, Christmas is a family holiday. I now realize that I could have sounded dismissive. He looked hurt and asked, "Do you still love me? And aren't I your family?" I reassured him that I do love him, and things seemed fine after that. About a week later, he surprised me by showing me a flight he had booked to South Dakota for Christmas. Flights to South Dakota are expensive, especially internationally. And while the gesture was touching, I thought it was impulsive and unwise. I told him it wasn't a good idea. For the first time, he got really upset, accusing me of not caring about him and not being serious about us and thinking only of myself, all of which are untrue. I love him and value our relationship deeply. Knowing he was speaking out of hurt, I asked him to take a walk to cool off. When he returned, I explained that he means everything to me, but I wasn't ready for him to meet my family. To be honest, I'm nervous about how my family would react. I'm white, he's Arab, and my family in rural South Dakota is not exposed to diversity. They've made ignorant racist comments in the past. While they'd likely be polite to his face, I fear they might say something offensive or jokingly inappropriate. They also assume Arab equals Muslim, even though he's Christian. This ignorance embarrasses me, and I don't want to put him in a situation where he might be hurt. I didn't tell him any of this though. Instead, I said I felt it was too soon to bring someone home, as in my family, that's often a precursor to engagement, which is true. He asked if he wasn't good enough, and I reassured him that he's perfect. He then mentioned that the tickets were non-refundable. I started crying, apologizing for wasting his money and saying how much I wanted him there, just not right now. He asked me to leave and said he needed space. I flew back home nearly a week ago, and since then we've only had brief phone conversations. He still texts me, "I love you," and "good night," but he's clearly distant and hurt. I don't know if there's anything I can do to fix this or reassure him. So, am I the arsehole? So the comments on this one, someone said, "You're the arsehole. Your family is pretty racist, and you might as well tell him that now. Their reaction is going to be the same if you brought him there now or 5 years from now. Your intent is selfish in nature. You're not protecting him. You're protecting yourself from the criticism you're going to get. He's hurt now. Wait till he meets your parents and realize you kept such a massive thing a secret." Opie says, "My immediate family, mum, dad, and sister, are very open and totally fine with me dating him. It's my extended family, grandma, aunts, uncles, and cousins I'm extremely worried about." A commenter says to OP, "No one is the arsehole in my opinion, but you've both made big errors. Buying a non-refundable international flight without telling you is very unwise, like you said. But you're not being a good partner by hiding the truth about your family from him. You're 19, so I'm not going to say you're the arsehole, but this is an arsehole move. He deserves to know your true motivations. I'm sure he would understand if you just explained it kindly. Nearly everyone has experiences with ignorant family. Did you even tell your family about where he's from though?" Opie says, "My entire family knows his race. My immediate family, parents and sister, are in full support and it doesn't bother them at all. My extended family, grandma, aunts, uncles and cousins have already made racist remarks about him. Most of them try to pass off as jokes. Commenter replies saying, "You push back against that. Have you made it clear to them that this is serious and they need to cut it out? Unless you're planning to go low contact with your family and live in the UK full time, this isn't going to end well." Trying to push the meeting off into the future. OP says, "My boyfriend and I want to live together in the UK once I graduate. My family doesn't know this yet, and I think this would be another reason to get mad at him. They're already livid about me going to another country for uni. As for their racism, I have told them I didn't appreciate it, but most of the comments I have heard through my sister after they happened." A commenter says to OP, "Bold of him to book non-refundable plane tickets without talking to you. Pretty huge red flag, to be honest. You've been together 10 months. He needs to chill the fuck out. This seems controlling and clingy. When you get back, you need to be honest with him that you weren't sure your family would behave, and also that you felt him buying tickets was presumptive and moving too fast. You're 19, you don't need to rush things, and he needs to respect your boundaries." OP says, "Thank you so much. This was really helpful." A couple of days later, OP comes in with a first update and says, "My boyfriend 23 male and I 19 female. Have been dating for 10 months now. He's from the UK where I study at university, and I'm currently back in the USA for winter break. I made a horrible mistake about how I handled his invitation to Christmas and refusing to let him come to mine," in another Reddit post of mine. "Yesterday I decided to call him to try and fix things, since what I did was so wrong. I explained my family's issues with his racism. He's Jordanian and I'm white, and how I was wanting to protect him and trying to handle my family's problems before he gets introduced. I acknowledged that I should have told him and handled it poorly, but would be honest with him from now on. I also told him that I had a conversation with my family about my relationship and told them any racist behavior from their end would be completely unacceptable. Initially, he was understanding of my situation. He said my family didn't change the way he felt or viewed me. He was glad I was honest, and he apologized for his reactions earlier. After a while, he said that after what happened, we should lay some ground rules for each person in our relationship. I thought it was going to be things like honesty, trust, consideration, etc. Instead, he literally gave me things I must do in order for this relationship to be successful. Firstly, he told me I couldn't make decisions about things without him first. He basically said that relationships require sacrifice and compromise. And with big things such as Christmas, vacations, etc., I would need him to be okay with me doing these things. He said it was childish of me to be in the habit of doing whatever I want. Secondly, he told me I should distance myself from my family. I actually understand his reasoning here, considering how some of them are racist and not great people. I told him it was complicated, but I still love them despite this, which might make me just as bad. Not sure. I can still see where he was coming from. So I told him that if they ever made a racist comment about anyone in front of me, I would try to educate, and if that didn't work, I would distance myself. He then said I was playing the middleman, and that was unfair to him. He said in a few years when we get married, I would have to make the choice. He finally told me he wants my location on at all times, and wants me to go low contact with my male friends, most of which are gay anyways. I told him lots of these rules seemed over the top, and in the most patronizing tone he said, "You've never been in a relationship before, and I'm older than you, so you should listen." The moment he said that, I thought it didn't sound like him at all. Most of the time, he is the most easygoing and relaxed person, so I couldn't believe it. I told him I didn't appreciate being talked to like a child, and if he wanted to be someone's father, then he should look for another person. He said that while he still forgave me for what I did earlier, my behavior was a testament to how immature I am. He then said he would continue this conversation another time and hung up, before we could even say goodbye. I feel like I partially caused this shift in his behavior by inadvertently making him insecure because of my refusal to let him come. Before this, he was honestly the last person I would ever consider getting insecure. He is very good looking, has a good career, and has always been confident, so I would never think he would act this way. It breaks my heart to know that I caused his actions, and want to know how I can convince him to let go of the rules so things can go back to the way they were. Or am I the arsehole for declining to follow the rules, and should I just follow them? Edit, I've been in this relationship for 10 months, and I really do love him. I told my friends things he said, and they've reiterated the points made here. But I guess it's hard for me to wrap my head around how he could go from such a good guy to this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but please be mindful that it's a lot more difficult for me to look at this objectively. Second edit. I appreciate everyone's comments and support, and I've read every single comment and have thought about my relationship all afternoon. I cried when I realized I must end things. I'll be calling and texting him tomorrow morning and breaking up. There were some questions to OP about does she live with her boyfriend and what do her friends think of the relationship altogether. OP says we don't live with each other. Sometimes I stay over at his flat, but I live in my uni accommodation. My friends in the UK really like him. We've been to the pub together as a huge group and it's always been a lot of fun. He's very kind and funny, so they've never had issues with him. My friends in the US didn't mind him until this entire thing happened. Since they never met him in person, I would send photos of us and screenshots of our texts and they would all say how in love we looked. Before this, he was legitimately perfect. I met him in my university cafe where he brought me coffee and chatted me up. He was so charismatic and made me feel so special, always remembering little details and giving me random surprise gifts. He seriously has never been this uptight before. The only thing he did was express concern over a few of my male friends, but I assured him they were gay / or they didn't have feelings for me, and he let it go. Another commenter says to OP, this is classic controlling behavior. He's trying to isolate you from your family. I haven't read your other post yet, but it looks like they are inadvertently giving him the right tools to do so. From your friends and basically everything that would provide you a place of refuge and shelter if you ever had to leave him. This whole I am older so you must listen would not fly even if he was 10 years older. But he's fucking 23. That's 4 years older than you. He still is a fucking immature child. Maybe not legally, but certainly from the way he acts. What are the rules for him? What are the sacrifices he makes? Right now all I can see is him trying to basically make all decisions for you and make him totally dependent on you. While he gives up nothing. Not the arsehole. And when you go back to the UK, politely tell him to fuck the hell off. Commenter 3 says, another commenter says, OP, you didn't cause him to be like this. It was already there and he latched onto the first mistake you made to show his true colors. He's using your guilt to manipulate you and control you and make it your fault. This was always what was going to happen. Nothing you did or didn't do was going to prevent it. You're 19. You just got done being a child who's had to listen to their parents. This is the time for you to make your own decisions, be independent, and do what you want. Within reasons, obviously. Don't stay in this relationship. It's not going to end well for you if he's already this controlling after 10 months. OP comes in with another update and says, hey everyone, I wanted to update on my previous 2 posts. I received great advice from a lot of people and it immensely helped me trying to evaluate our relationship. I text my friends about the situation and they also agreed he sounded overbearing. About an hour ago, I ended things for good. I texted him yesterday afternoon that I thought we should have a serious discussion about our relationship. He said we should wait until we've both cooled off from our conversations earlier. So I suggested tomorrow. He sent me his usual good night and I love you text, which kind of broke me. His horrible behavior didn't erase 10 months of love that I did feel for him. And it almost felt like betraying him saying the same thing back when I knew what I was going to do in the morning. Here's kind of a summarized version of the call. It was over an hour, so I condensed it as much as I could, and I tried to write it as quickly as the call ended so I wouldn't forget. Anyways, when I called him, he seemed very normal and calm. We talked for 10 minutes just about how things were going and stuff, and I basically told him that I didn't want to do this. But I thought it would be best if we broke up. I said that we probably expected different things from our partners, and I couldn't do what he wanted from me. After I said that, he sat in silence for like a minute. I thought the call had dropped, but then he said he was processing what I said. He asked me if this was revenge for what he said 2 days ago, and I said no, just a realization of incompatibility. He then said he wasn't going to change his mind on his boundaries, and me giving him an ultimatum was manipulative. I told him this wasn't an ultimatum. It was gonna happen. He then kept repeating, "What the fuck?" my name, and then told me I didn't mean it. He asked me if I loved him still, and I said yes. And then he said he knows I'll come back. I said this was it. He said something about how we need each other and went on a rant, but I don't remember that much of it because I was crying at that point. I cut him off at the end and just said goodbye. He said he would never forgive me and I would never see him again since he was that awful, and then hung up. I immediately blocked his number, WhatsApp, Snapchat, and Insta. I do not think he will have any other way of contacting me. I I do not think he will seek me out or anything, so I'm not too worried about that. My university accommodation also has front desk security, and you can't get in without a keycard. Thanks again, everyone. Edit, his mum texts me saying she was sad things ended the way they did, but wishes me all the best. And a minor update. One of his friends tried adding me on Snapchat for some reason. Don't know if it's him using his friend's account. His friend wants to know what happened, or a coincidence he added me right when this unfolded. And after that, someone said to OP, not the arsehole, you did the right thing. When you get back, make sure to inform campus accommodations that this person is not allowed to contact you or visit you or anything. He also might try to see you in the buildings where you have your lectures, if those are accessible, or places where you shop or like to eat. For the next few weeks, if you can mostly socialize in groups and with friends, avoid being alone. OP says thank you. Most of the buildings require an ID to get into. Another comment says not the arsehole. Please, please, please be careful when you return to the UK. Get help to watch your back. He is not done, and he does not accept this is over. He sees you as the dumb, immature and experienced girl he can mold and control the way he wants. No way he will give up this easily without fighting. OP says thanks for your advice. I talk to a lot of my friends in the UK, and I'm going to stay close to them for a while when I get back. Another comment says not the arsehole. Setting boundaries and actually enforcing them is an important life skill. And all of this in a 10-month relationship is absolutely terrifying. I was absolutely blown away by the initial booking the flight without an invitation, absolutely wild in itself. I rarely pop around my brother's house without letting him know I'm turning up first. Bloody hell. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. You just don't. Still selling false hope cause you just don't care. House, field, if we talking to a uniform.